welcome to a new video. In this video, I am going to talk about how do I use MySQL inside a PHP file. And I'm going to go and explain how do we do that with an example. And today in this video is just about us learning the basics about how do I have access to a database from a PHP file. And then later we're going to see, and we're going to put that in a real life application. Well, my application is going to be about the following. I am going to create a form where I'm going to ask you to enter a course title, course number, and the credits. And then you're going to send these informations to, the information is going to be sent to a database, and it's going to be inserted inside a database. And then after that, I will show you how do you retrieve the data from that database. And then later on, we're going to show you how do we create a login system using what we learned. But the most important part here is that you need to understand that whatever I'm going to be doing now, it's very, very similar to what I explained in the previous videos. So in my application here, I'm going to create a new database. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to call it lesson 9 with a lowercase e. So this is my new database that I'm going to try to get my PHP file to be connected to. And at this point, this database doesn't have any tables. So I have to go ahead and create a table. Before we do that, use lesson 9. So now lesson 9 is in use. Now we're going to create a table. Create table. And we're going to call this table courses. And in this courses table, we are going to have, let's say, an ID as integer. I think we should put them between parentheses. And we'll go ID integer not null. And then I believe increment auto increment, and we'll keep this as the key. So that will be my first element. It's going to be called ID, and we know it's going to be the key, and it's going to have an auto increment value to it. And the second one is going to be, let's say, course number. So course number. Now this course number is going to be a var char. And well, we'll just put, let's say, 20 characters. Okay. Not null. And now I'm done with the second element. Now the third element is going to be course title. And is going to also be varchar. This time, this one I'm going to make it a little bit long. So let's just go ahead, for example, 100 characters. Not null. And then finally, I'm going to have credits. This is going to be an integer. And then not null. Put semicolon and here we go. Now if I go ahead and run it, I have no problems. If I refresh the page, you'll see that now I have the course, and here they are. If I go down here, just show columns, and then I'll just say courses. Looks like I misspelled it. Let me see here. You enter SQL, check the manual. Show columns from courses. I forgot the from. And here we go. So those are the columns. We got the ID, course number, course title, and credits. So now we have those information, which is very important. We need to remember this. The database called lesson, the table called courses, and we have ID, and we have course number, and we have course title, and we have credits. I already created the form and I already created the PHP file. So I am just going to go ahead and explain how things are going to go. And then later we'll see how we can update and change this database. So I do have my window here, my console, EC2 in AWS. So let's go ahead and change directory var www.html. Oops, nothing's printing. I need to refresh the page. So let's go ahead and change directory. Now change directory var www and html. And now if I list, here's the list of files that I have. I decided to create a new folder called lesson 9. So I'm going to go ahead and change that directory, lesson 9. And now if I go here, I do have those files. What's very important for me is this index file and this PHP file. Now before I go ahead and give them a run, let me just navigate through them. Now before I do anything, I already had my password in this file. So I'm going to take this window to a side screen and then take the password out and put it back. So let me go ahead and do that. Sudo nano process.php, and I'm just going to go down here and take that password away. Control X, save it, and I'll be back. Clear. And I'm going to come back now. So as I said, here's the list of files. Let me start with the index file. So cat index file. And here it is. So it's a very, very simple PHP file. And by the way, this file itself, I posted in the Blackboard so you can have access to it. I do have my doc type. I got the HTML, open and close. I got the head. And I have the body. Inside the body, I have the PHP, which I just had a head here, head 1. And then here it is. This is my form. Method is post. Action is process.php. And what do I have here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 input tags. The first 3 of them are type text. The last one of them, the last 2, one of them is submit and the other one is reset. Now for each one of those text input forms, I have a placeholder just to show a message to the user about what he's supposed to do here. I called this input course number and I set the size to be 100 and I typed here required. So you would not be able to submit without typing anything there. Same thing here for the second one. It's a placeholder, enter the course title. I called it course name, even though if I call it course title would be better. Size 100 and it's required. And finally, we got another input, which is a placeholder, enter the course credits. And I called the name credits here and size 100 and required. Now, when the user is going to enter those values and press on submit, whatever the user entered for the number of the course, the title, and the credits are going to be sent to the server using those names containers. Now, the second part here, let's just jump into the PHP because that's the part that's important. So we'll just go ahead and do that. I'm going to go with sudo nano. And by the way, if you're not using AWS, you're using your local host, probably you're going to be following 99% of what I'm going to be doing, and you're just going to have to change a few things. So let's go ahead and do that process. And here's my file. Now, at the beginning, let's start with the first part inside the PHP section. I am going to read those 3 values that has been sent from the server to my computer, from the computer to the server using those $_post those statements here. Let me just highlight those statements. So this is me reading whatever you passed from the form to this PHP file. So now I have a variable called course number for the course number and a variable for the course title holding the course name and the credits to hold the credits. Now this is the part where it's very important to pay attention to. I am creating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different variables. Each variable will hold a value, and that value totally depends on the system that you have. So For the server side, I am using the endpoint of my database. Now, if I go back here, let's see here, services, let me go to RDS. This is going to take a few seconds. Come on, don't be that guy. And here we go. If you click on the database here, and this is the database we're using, KCKCC-CIST, you click on it, and here it is, the endpoint. That's what I'm using for the server. So I just copy it and put it there. Now, if you are using your own computer and you have the Apache installed in your own computer, you're just probably going to have to type localhost. Now, the username. If I go and click on configuration, I believe, the master username, which is this one. So that's the master username that I'm using in this place. Now the password, this is something you have to remember it when you created your database in the first place. And I just took it out from my end here. And then after that, we have the database name. Now the database name, those are just variables that I called. I just created that here, and this is what I called it, lesson 9. So I put lesson 9 here. And the port number, if you don't know what's the port number, if you go here to connectivity, it's going to give you any, and MySQL has a port number of 3306. Now, after you created those variables, and now they're, it looks like I can't, here we go. After you created those variables, this line here is just for me testing. So I can take that out, of course. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to do here is to create a connection to the database. Now, if you're using the PowerPoint that I provided in the Blackboard, you probably would not, it may not work. And I give this a multiple tries. One of the reasons it may not work because recently PHP and MySQL, they changed the syntax and they changed the algorithms to use what we call MySQL I instead of MySQL. So if you go to the Blackboard, you will all say MySQL, but you will not see the I. I has been added recently. I will add an extra level of security. So that's why I'm just going to go ahead and use this latest technology or the latest syntax that they offer, and I'm creating a new variable. I'm going to call it connect. New MySQL I, and I'm just going to list all these variable names. You can just copy the text and put it here if you want, but it's not recommended to do that. Actually, if you're going to doing this multiple times, it's recommended to have another PHP and just include it here. Anyway, so I am using those variables here to establish that connection. And then after that, I'm going to check for that connection because, again, if any of these variables that you have here doesn't have or hold a right value, you may not be able to connect. So before I start doing anything, I need to go ahead and test the connection. So I'm saying if connection is not. So basically I'm saying if there's no connection, I want you to show me a connect failed, and then follow that with MySQL. I think I'm supposed to type I here. Let's see if that's going to work or is going to complain about this. I can just check for now. Let me just go ahead and do that. Connect error. So MySQL I underscore connect underscore error. I just want to make sure that I don't have any syntax error. Oh, yes. So it is. If you look here, this is the PHP. So it is. There is an I. And here it is, connect error. MySQL I connect error. And this MySQL connect error basically is going to return the reason why you failed to have a connection. This could help you to figure out how do you fix it if that's the case. Anyway, if you pass this test and there was a connection, so you are not going to be showing any messages here, and it's going to follow that with showing connected successfully. Now, after that, this is very, very important. Let me just try to go down. In this section here, I'm just testing the connection here. I'm trying to get some information about this connection. One of them is going to tell you the client info, those important things here, the server info and the protocol info, the host info. This is going to just give you numbers about versions that you have. Anyway, this is not the biggest deal, but it's just a few functions available or methods available that can help you extract information in case you need them. But this is not the core reason why we are here. Now, after establishing the connection that I have here, what I'm going to be doing in this section here, I'm going to start adding the data that I just received from the form. You remember here, those three values that I passed, the course number, course name, and credits. This is what I want to do after I establish a connection with the server. I want to insert them inside that table. And look how simple this is. Just like how we did that inside the MySQL workbench, what we need to do, we need to create a query, a SQL query. And I just called it $SQL. Now you can see here, insert into courses, course name, course title, credits, and I'm inserting the values of course number. Remember here, it's a variable, so $, you put the single quotation, a comma. Let me just try to see if I can, nope, I don't like this. Comma, and then the course title and the course number. Now remember here, the ID, you don't assign an ID, it's going to be automatically assigned. So the idea here again is that you're going to just create that query, as you can see here. Now what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to run that query. It's very, very similar to, let me just show you, if I copy this, which I can't, but just imagine I copied it, and if I go back here and paste it here, and then run it, that will get the same effect. So let's go back here. How do I get that effect again? You have to follow this SQL after you created it, the query, MySQL I query, underscore query. You type the name of the variable connect. You follow that with the query itself, which is this statement here. Now, after that, whatever you just typed will be basically inserted inside that table. Now, what I did here after that, I followed that by printing whatever you have inside that table. So I have another query. Is select everything from courses. That's the name of the table. And then in this area here, I will try to run it. Now, remember here, this MySQL I query, when I run this line here, I'm sending data to the database. But here, I'm trying to get data from the database. So it's very important for me to have a space to store the data, and that's what I'm calling results. So I'm going to say MySQL I underscore query connect SQL here again, which is basically this query here. So this is going to execute, and that's going to retrieve all the information that you have inside the table to your website. Now, everything's going to be stored inside results. And remember, whatever you're receiving there, it's that table, okay? Now, what I need to do after that, I need to find out how many records or how many rows are inside that table. Are there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I need to know that number. And here's what I'm doing after that. I'm showing you two different ways to show the data on your screen. You can use what we call associate arrays, and we can use a regular array. So this is here for the associated arrays, and this is here for the regular arrays, and you'll see there's not that big of a difference between them. So first of all, I have to check and see if num is greater than 0. So that basically means I was able to get connected to the database and to the table, and there were actually records inside that table. So if num was, let's say, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, that basically means I can actually retrieve them. And here's what I'm doing. This is very important. I have a while statement. And I'm saying in this while statement, while, and I have a new variable called row1. I call it row1. You can call it anything you want. This function here is extremely important. What do? We say MySQLi.fetch SSOC, association. So, and then you put results here, which is the table itself. Now, in the table, if you go back to the table, and if I come here and say show columns from courses, let me just run it. Oh, I already have it here. So look at this. I need, what we can do, we can use the names of these fields to have access to the values. So if you look here, row 1 for the course number, which again is basically going to tell you the course number, and this is going to tell you the course title, and this is going to tell you the credits, for example, for the first row. And then you go to the next row, it's going to tell you the course number, the course title, and the credit for this. And I didn't print the title, the ID here, which is okay. If you want to print it, you can print it. If you don't want to print it, it's still okay. And so on. So you're going to keep going row by row until there is no more row left, and that's where you're going to leave. Now, the difference between this section and this section here is that I'm using I think I have a problem here. Is this correct? I hope this is not a syntax error. Let me just make sure. MySQL I underscore yeah, I knew it. This is it. So I do have a syntax error here. There is no A. Yep, let me just go ahead and fix that. I'm glad that I got it now. Where is the cursor? Here it is. So let's go ahead and fix that. And here it is. So MySQL fetch rows. This is basically you're going to treat the thing as an array. So this is going to show you the first item, the second item, and the third item. And I think this will show me, because based on the order, if I go back here, I got ID, course number, course title, and credits. So let's just go ahead and fix this by adding a fourth element. So in this area here, I'm going to come all the way here, and I'm going to put double quotations, dot, and I'll put another dot, and I'll just come here and say $, row 2 of 3. And for this part here, let me just go back up. I want to see the course ID as well. So I'm just going to come here and say $, row 1 of, and I'll just put ID. I'll put a dot here, and then double quotation, and then I'll put a dot here. So this one here, after you selected all the table rows and you store them inside the result, you're going to have to check, and you're going to have to check how many rows did you actually get. And I called it number, I'm sorry. And then I'm saying here, if number was greater than 0, that basically means I do have some records there. I'm going to go with a while loop. I'm going to read those rows one by one. This is going to be reading them in a form of associated array. So you're going to see the ID for the first row, you're going to see the course number for the first row, the title, and then the credits. And then you go read the second row, the third row, and the fourth row until you're done. This one here is going to get the same job done, but instead of using the IDs or the titles or the names of those records or columns, we are using numbers 0, 1, 2, 3. Now, of course, once you're done with the whole thing, it's extremely important to close that connection. And to do that, you type MySQL underscore close, and you put the connection, and then I just printed the end. So let's go ahead and save this. And let's give this a try. So how do I get this to work? Well, first of all, you need to understand the following. Those two files are inside a folder called Lesson 9. So if I come here, this is the RDS. No, that's not what I want. And if I go to, I'm still here. If I open this DNS site, or I open directly my IPv4, you'll see that it's taking me to this page. Now, if I want to have access to the index inside lesson 9, you just have to type here lesson. Now, of course, you don't have to do that. You can put them directly in the same folder, and you should have no problem. So lesson 9 immediately would take me to my form here. Now, let me just put courses. I'm going to go 272 PHP programming, 3 credits. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to click on send. And when I'm going to send it, here's what's going to happen. First of all, the database is supposed to be updated. Second of all, I need to see this class printed on the screen 2 times. So let's go ahead and hope, cross our fingers, that we'll get that job done. And that didn't work. Well, connection was successful. A lot of things here didn't show. And I am going to pause the video and try to figure out why did that happen. Actually, that was a really easy and quick fix. I just forgot to put the password back. So let's go ahead and give this a try again. And here we go. So it looks like everything went okay. Those are the information, and this is the course, but it looks like it's not showing me the second one, the one with the feature. I don't know which one of them was this. I think this is the first loop, not the second one. I need to go and double check on that. But let me just show you one thing. If I go to my database here, and if I click select from courses and refresh the page, and you can see here 1 CIST 1 and 3 is here. Now I'm going to go and check and see what's wrong with the second one, and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm going to have to admit it here. I tried everything that I can think about, but this thing doesn't want to work. Now, let me just tell you something happened when I started creating those files. Let me just, at the beginning of this file, there is that $post statement. In one of them, instead of typing post, I typed PSOT. And the whole program didn't work for like 2 or 3 hours. And I was just staring at it, trying to figure out why is it acting that way, until I found out it was a misspelling for the post. So I am hoping to God that this could be a reason that I did something very tiny here, and for that reason it doesn't work. Now, for sure, I know there is no A in the fetch here. So that's one thing that I'm sure about. I decided to run the query again here, and still it didn't work. The number here, I'm pretty sure that number is greater than 1. So I'm supposed to get whatever the number is, but for some reason it's not. It's getting through this, but this while loop is not working. Now, when you're going to work on your assignment and in your lab, try to use this one and see if you can get it to work. And if it didn't work, you can switch back to the first one. But for now, this one doesn't want to work, and that's where I'm going to stop. So let me just go back here to this file. And as you can see here, I know we were like 3 courses, and now I added those 7 other 5 courses, and still it didn't want to work. If you go back to your database, you can see here, if I run this again, you'll see the database populated with all these courses that I'm adding. And what's very important, that each one of them has an ID, and you can see the IDs here are unique. So this is, again, how do you manipulate databases using MySQL from a PHP file. Next thing will be we will try to create a login system, and we'll see how do I, for example, my login system, there will be a database for your username and password and an ID, and once you're logged in successfully, you will be using that ID to have access to another database to show, let's say, your grades in that course. So you can see here, you have those courses. Now it's going to be a different story. Again, you're going to use a username and password, and then every single username and password is going to be associated with another database for the courses that that student has. And that's pretty much it. Now, if I want to summarize what I talked about, whenever you want to connect your PHP file to an SQL server, number one, you need to create the connection. After that, you need to create a query. You need to run that query. And then if you are showing results, you're going to have to go through the procedure that I showed you. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later in a new video.